The sun rises over a rugged plain. You're chewing on something that might once have been a squirrel, or might still be one. Your breath fogs the morning air. Your cloak smells like campfire smoke, damp fur, and ambition. You glance across the fire at Oog. He's currently shouting fish at a rock, and no one's even fishing. You nod at him. He nods back, then yells, "Mammoth nipples!" and resumes drawing aggressive lines in the dirt with a stick. Everyone shrugs and keeps eating. Welcome to prehistoric neurodiversity, before modern psychology, before diagnoses, before YouTube explainers with soft piano music. There was Oog, and the tribe that didn't always understand him, but kept handing him roasted root vegetables anyway. Let's get this straight. Tourette syndrome didn't suddenly appear when medical textbooks did. It didn't wait politely in the shadows until someone in a lab coat decided to name it. It's been around, quietly, loudly, erratically, for thousands of years. Long before we had the vocabulary. Long before we had neurology, brain scans, therapy dogs, or YouTube explainers with pastel infographics. Long before Freud decided everything was your mother's fault. Back when people still debated whether being left-handed meant you were a witch or just clumsy. So how did cavemen treat someone who twitched, barked, or suddenly shouted breadfish in the middle of a hunting strategy session? Not with pamphlets, not with labels, not with the gentle hum of fluorescent lighting in a therapist's office. Probably with confusion, some awe, a few sidelong glances, a generous helping of trial and error, and eventually acceptance. Because when your entire tribe consists of 27 people and one of them yells wet rocks every time it rains, you don't exile them, you don't analyze them. You either figure out how to live with it, or you decide the spirits have chosen a new prophet. Small bands of early humans were weird, intimate ecosystems. Everyone knew everyone's business, all of it. You shared food, you shared shelter, you shared responsibilities, bodily odors, lice, emotional breakdowns, and the kind of prolonged eye contact that only happens when there's literally no one else to look at. Privacy wasn't a concept, it was a myth told by the wind. There was no sneaking off to clear your head, no relocating for a fresh start, no moving to another camp to focus on your art. The people you were born with were the same ones you'd end up huddled next to during snowstorms, gastrointestinal disasters, and the deeply uncomfortable root-eating solstice festival where no one makes eye contact and someone always cries. So when someone like Oog came along, someone who twitched mid-sentence, barked out random phrases, and couldn't sit through a story circle without shouting "but" every 10 seconds, what did the tribe do? First, they stared. Then they blinked. Then they stared harder, like maybe the twitching would stop if they squinted hard enough. Someone probably asked, "Is this a phase?" Someone else probably whispered, "Did he lick the wrong frog?" But eventually, they just adapted. Because in a group that small, you only have two options: make room or start a fire with the wrong person's blanket and create a whole different kind of problem. Oog didn't blend in quietly. He wasn't background material. He was foreground, with volume. He made noises, sudden ones, loud ones, words that didn't match the moment, the activity, or anything remotely happening around him. He'd be gathering firewood and suddenly shout, "Snake pants." No snakes, no pants, just pure, unfiltered Oog. He'd twitch his shoulder mid-throw and hurl a rock at a tree instead of the target. Then do it again, then name the tree Steve and insist it was his rival. He blinked rapidly, sniffed like he was trying to detect ghosts. He flapped his arms. He once attempted to high-five a bird. The bird did not consent. He startled the hunters. He interrupted the shamans. He once yelled, "Death sweeter," during a funeral, so loudly that someone burst out laughing and dropped the deceased. At first, the tribe didn't know what to think. Was he cursed? Possessed? Had the spirits jammed a squirrel into his brain as some kind of cosmic joke? Nobody knew. But then something strange happened. They started to accommodate. Not because of science, not because they understood, but because when you see someone every single day, when they're helping dig roots, keeping the fire going, or randomly yelling "Boger Crow" while painting bison on the cave wall, You stop asking, "Why are you like this?" and start asking, "How do we work around this without losing our minds?" The tribe began to plan with Oog in mind. They placed him at the back of the hunting party, where his surprise outbursts were less likely to scare prey and more likely to startle rival predators into a full-on identity crisis. They stopped assigning him to lead rituals. The last time he shouted fungus toes during a solemn chant, the shaman dropped his ceremonial goat skull. But they let him drum, and it turned out he was really good at it. Not consistent, not subtle, but chaotic in a way that somehow made everyone else move better. One elder tilted his head during a particularly wild rhythm and murmured, "These are the drum beats of the fire gods." No one argued, not even the goat. He wasn't mocked, not really. He was imitated, once. A kid tried to mimic one of Oog's outbursts during dinner. Laughed, snorted, flapped his arms like wings, then promptly tripped over a badger and broke a tooth. Oog calmly walked over, named the badger Justice, handed it a stick, and declared it sacred. It became the tribe's unofficial mascot. No one imitated Oog after that. Over time, people noticed something. Oog had strengths, real ones. He was quick, nimble, strong in the unpredictable, zigzagging way of someone who was always halfway through a full-body surprise. When a saber-tooth lunged from the bushes, it wasn't the warriors who reacted first. It was Oog, because his body was always doing something, even if it wasn't always the right something. And when the lookout once dozed off mid-watch, it was Oog who suddenly bellowed, "Butt feathers," so loud it nearly started a stampede. Everyone snapped awake, just in time to see the hyena pack circling the camp. That shout saved lives. They didn't know it was a tick. They didn't care. They just called it Oog's warnings. You see, early humans were practical. If something was useful, it stayed. If something wasn't dangerous, it was tolerated. And if someone made you laugh, even accidentally while screaming about elbows, you pulled up a log and made room for them at the fire. Even if they occasionally shouted "poop hands" during a death ritual and caused the grieving widow to drop the ceremonial gourd. Because honestly, most of early human life was grim. Food was scarce. Nights were cold. Your shoes were a dead raccoon tied with hope. And your main form of entertainment was watching the fire and pretending it wasn't judging you. So having someone like Oog, someone whose entire existence was unpredictable, vivid, and occasionally screamed things like fangberries in his sleep, wasn't just tolerable. It was uplifting. A one-man comedy show delivered through mystery grunts and involuntary interpretive dance. People started whispering, saying he was touched by the spirits, that he spoke in riddles, that maybe, just maybe, his chaotic phrases weren't random at all. Did he mean to yell "cheese wind" at the sky during the eclipse? Nobody knows. But did the eclipse happen? Yes. Coincidence? You tell me. Actually, no. Tell the shaman. He's carving Oog's face into a rock as we speak. Oog didn't explain himself. He couldn't. Language was still under construction, grunts and gestures and the occasional interpretive dance. And even if it wasn't, Oog probably couldn't have told you why his body did what it did. But he showed up. Every day. He helped carry things, sometimes in the wrong direction, but with full enthusiasm. He made people laugh, whether on purpose or not. He sang bizarre songs in made-up languages. He once scared away a bear by shouting, "No, no, no, no," in a tone so sharp it seemed to personally offend the bear. He didn't fit the mold of the ideal tribe member. He was unpredictable, awkward, loud, distracting. So the tribe did something radical. They adjusted the mold, not because they were enlightened, not because they had a TED Talk about inclusion, but because they were human. And humans, at their best, adapt. And Oog? Oog was unmistakably, unapologetically human. In all the strange, twitchy, inconvenient, and unexpectedly beautiful ways that being human can look like. We have science now. Names, labels, treatment plans, acronyms, support groups, TikTok. And that's good. Understanding matters. Awareness helps. Diagnosis brings clarity. But long before any of that, there were people who twitched, shouted, moved differently. And there were tribes who figured it out anyway. And they didn't always get it. They didn't always handle it perfectly. But they made space. Because in the earliest corners of our brain, before PowerPoints, before DSM codes, before TED Talks with soothing piano, we understood something simple. You don't have to understand someone completely to value them. You just have to keep handing them roots. Oog wasn't broken. He wasn't cursed. He wasn't a cosmic error or a weird lesson from the spirits about patience. He was just Oog. A little louder, a little weirder, a little more likely to scare fish just by making eye contact with a puddle. But loved. Because even if he once tried to teach a frog how to do jumping jacks, he was still family. And when the tribe gathered around the fire, when the drumming started, bones rattled, voices rose, and everyone was doing their best not to fall into the flames, Oog sang too. Out of key, off rhythm, too loud, too often, at one point, possibly in squirrel. At another, in what sounded like dramatic walrus. But somehow, it worked. He was the only one who managed to make a lullaby sound like both a war cry and a mating call for angry raccoons. Perfect. Because in a world where joy was scarce, predators were fast, and hygiene was optional at best, Oog didn't just survive, he showed up loud, weird, and unforgettable. And occasionally tried to duet with the ceremonial goat. Because in the end, it wasn't the quietest member who held the tribe together. Wasn't the calmest. Not the one with the neatest braids or the most stoic mammoth staring contests. It wasn't the one who spoke with perfect timing, or moved with perfect grace, or made the fire dance exactly right during the moon ceremonies. It was the one who made people laugh when the cold settled deep in their bones. The one who cracked open silence with a shout of banana spider during a tense moment and reminded everyone they were still alive. The one who jolted the group back to reality, not with wisdom, but with a loud, unpredictable interruption that somehow landed just when they needed it. The one who couldn't always hold still, but always held space. The one who couldn't stay quiet, but never stayed away. The one who kept showing up. Every morning, every hunt, every fire circle, even when his own body didn't cooperate. Even when his words came out sideways. Even when his presence made everything a little more complicated, but also a lot more real. The one who yelled fire poop in the middle of a tense winter night and made the kids laugh so hard they forgot they were hungry, forgot the cold, forgot the fear, if only for a minute. And in that minute, they felt warm again. And that's what held them together. We still have people like Oog. They're in our schools, in our homes, in our offices, in our awkward family dinners, chaotic group chats, PTA meetings that go off the rails, and birthday parties where someone always cries, even if it's just the cake. They might not speak like we do. They might not move like we do. They might bark at pigeons mid-conversation, or reenact a squirrel's emotional breakdown during lunch. They might interrupt, twitch, echo, or shout something like toaster lizard during a staff meeting. And we blink and pause and silently ask the universe, is this a warning? But they are us. Different wiring, same heart, same tribe, same fire. And maybe the greatest evolutionary leap wasn't tool making, fire starting, or inventing delivery apps so we could get pad thai without leaving the cave. Maybe it was this. We're still trying to make space for each other. Still learning to adapt, still building weird, beautiful, imperfect communities out of chaos and overcooked root vegetables. Still sitting beside the ones who don't quite fit and realizing the problem was the mold, not the person. Still yelling joyfully into the wind. Still laughing when we should be serious. Still drumming off-key like it's a threat and a vibe. Still handing out rocks like they're emotional currency. Still naming badgers things like justice, handing them spears, and pretending they understand tribal politics. Hell, just like Oog, with a stick, a surprisingly aggressive chant, and a badger who looks like he's one firelight story away from filing an HR complaint, and still a place at the fire.